Something I get asked quite often when I'm streaming is what are your controller and camera settings? So I thought instead of having to repeat myself every single day, I'll do a quick video showing you all of my settings and maybe going over and explaining a few of the ones that you might not fully understand. Firstly then, controller settings. FIFA Trainer, I'm guessing 90% of the world will have this on high. There's really no reason to have it on show at all. Apart from when you're trying to learn the creative runs, if you have any intention of using the creative runs feature, maybe have it on show, but then you want to turn all the mechanics off. You do this in game, by the way, when you pause it. You want to turn all the mechanics off besides the creative runs marker. I think that's what it's called. If not, it's called something pretty similar. Timed finishing. Now, I have this on. I do still think it can benefit you if you can time your shots, maybe your first time shots and your headers. But in all reality, to the average player, to a normal player, it's not going to make much difference to you. It's not going to get you any more wins. In fact, I think to the average player, it's probably going to do more harm than help, you know, because when you have them situations when you're trying to spam the shoot button, maybe when there's a loose ball in the box, you end up red timing it. I think the only people who should have time finishing on are professional and competitive players. Next player switch indicator, I have this on. I think it's a pretty good one, a pretty essential one to be honest. I think this really helps with whether you need to use the right stick to switch or not, because you can look at that, see which player L1 is going to switch you to, and if it's a player you think, no, I don't want him, you can use the right stick instead. We'll get onto the right stick a little bit further into the settings, but I think it's pretty important to have this on. Pass block assistance, I mean, if I start talking about the AI, this video will end up being 20 minutes instead of 5. It's just, yeah, you've got to have it on. You need as much assistance from the AI as possible. The AI is so overpowered this year. It's a joke. The interceptions, the blocks, just everything. Basically, you want as much AI assistance as possible. As bad as that is, that's just how FIFA 21 is. Auto switching, air balls and loose balls is the only real option here. Auto is just crazy. The game will switch players for you. Even when your opponent's just using ground passes, you'll end up with a player selected that you do not want selected. And manual is just the opposite end of the scale. You will end up with having to switch whenever you want to switch. Your opponent can have a corner, your opponent can take a goal kick, a cross, any type of pass. The game will never switch for you unless you press L1 on the right stick. So the only and the safest option by far is air balls and loose balls. Auto switching move assistance. Now this is one of the settings I believe that not everyone will fully understand. It's linked with this. We've already been through how air balls and loose balls is the only really decent option for auto switching. And what this is about is when you get auto switched, which 95% of the time is going to be when your opponent plays a chip through ball or puts a cross in, it gives you a little bit of time to choose which direction you want to move the player that you've suddenly got control of without expecting to have control of. So for example, if your opponent plays a chip through ball over the top and the game auto switches you to the defender that's chasing him, he will continue to run in his direction, chasing the guy who has been played through until you can choose whether you want to move him left, right, up or down. It basically just gives you a little bit of time to choose the direction that you want to move. If you have this on none, for example, and you are not running the same way the defender was already running, then you could end up halting his run, making him lose a few yards on the striker. If you have this on high, you could end up with him running in the direction that he was running for a little bit too long, if that makes sense. The best one by far, and I've tested this thoroughly, is low. It just gives you as the right balance of enough assistance to just give you that, you know, that split, maybe half a second to choose which way you want to move. Jockey, now for quite a while last year I was using manual jockey, but just with the game how it is and the defensive AI just being so overpowered in everything that it does, I think assisted has to be the one. With manual, you will never slow down, even when you were right next to them. You can, with assisted, say you jockey near them, your player will automatically start to slow down. With manual, you're completely on your own. It can be a little bit beneficial sometimes when you don't want to slow down, but most of the time, I'd say in about 8 situations out of 10, assisted is the one that will benefit you the most. Auto flare pass, pretty important one to have off. These are absolutely useless. Now, nothing used to annoy me more, and I'm so grateful that they added this. year after year after year, using players who had the flare pass trait, just doing awful and completely needless back heels. It used to drive me insane because the back heels were terrible. They would never ever work. So finally they've added this. You want this off, and if you want to do a flare pass, just hold down the L2 on PlayStation button or the LT on Xbox button, but you want this setting off. Auto clearances on. Now this will only happen when the ball is in and around your goal mouth. There might be the occasional situation where you think to yourself, hang on, I wanted a little bit of time there, I wanted to pass it out, but believe me, in the long run this will do a lot more good than bad. Auto shots, bit of a funny one. I don't think I've had an auto shot in the whole of FIFA 21. I can't remember whether it was FIFA 19 or FIFA 20. I used to whip corners in. Sometimes the game would head it in for me, which I thought was a little bit crazy. But I'm not sure. I'm guessing this will only happen in a situation where you're extremely close and basically it's a tap in or it's a guaranteed goal. So have it on all year, and I'm pretty sure it's actually never taken an auto shot for me, but surely it can only do more good than bad. Player lock. Now this is a new feature on FIFA 21. In my opinion, it's not that useful. I'm yet to see a pro player use this to very good effect. I know when I'm watching the streams and the tournaments, I'm still seeing quite a few of them try it, but I think to the average player, and even to me and many other pro players, this is pretty useless. But you never know, in the future things might change. It can do no harm to have it on. It's not like you can trigger it by accident. You have to press in both sticks. So just leave it on. Maybe it's me, maybe you can learn it, and maybe it will be beneficial to some of you. So I'd leave it on, although personally I never ever use it. Contextual agile dribbling. Now I have this on and I seem to feel like it benefits me a lot. I did turn it off for a while, and it just felt like the touches in and around the box, especially when someone's got, which is a lot of the time by the way with the latest patch, when someone's got a lot of players in and around the box, when you're trying to work your way and work an angle, it just seems to take better touches. It seems to almost give you a little boost to your dribbling, whereas if you have it off, your player will just, say using the left stick, he'll just dribble like normal, won't take any little touches, and you seem to lose the ball a little bit easier. So personally I'd have this on. I've seen a few with it off, but in my experience on is definitely the way forward. Assisted headers, another massive one. Now, heading has made a little bit of a comeback in FIFA 21, but believe me, it is only if you have this off. If you have this turned on, you are basically using FIFA 20 headers. Semi-impossible, it really is. You'll put a perfect cross in, they will head it wide, they'll head it over. It's pretty hard to score. But if you turn these off, you will reap the benefits big time, although, as the clues in the word assisted headers, you will no longer be assisted in the direction. You need them to be manual, so you need assisted headers off. You will have to direct the header, but if you can get the hang of directing the header in the direction of the goal, the headers will be 10 times better. There is no comparison between the headers you get with assisted on and assisted off. You need these off if you have any intentions of scoring headers. Right stick switching, another funny one. I don't believe there'll be many people in the world who use ball relative, but it basically means that, say the player you've got selected, say you've got your left centre back selected, and you flick it to the left, it will go to your left back. You flick it to the right, it'll go to your right centre back. Whereas if you had it on ball relative, it would depend where the ball is. So say the ball was in front of your left back, you would have to flick it in the direction of where your left centre back was to switch through. A bit of a complicated one, but I'm sure you all know what I mean. You need on player relative basically. Ball relative won't benefit you much at all. Ground pass assistance, through ball assistance, shot assistance. So you want all of these assisted. We all know what an assisted game that FIFA is, but these are all pretty self-explanatory. I mean, for some reason at the start of this game, I'm one of them when I first get the game, I always just go straight and go with the default settings. FIFA had my through ball settings on semi, and I think some pros are still using semi. I'm not sure how or why. You want them fully assisted. You want as much help from the game as possible. As sad as that is, it's just the way it is. All of these need to be unassisted. Semi might be usable, but I just can't see any of the benefits at all, to be honest. Now, cross assistance, this is a big one. This has to be unassisted this year. In previous years, semi was always the best option. However, this year it has to be unassisted, and it's for one very specific reason. And this is it, the driven cross / the low cross. I'm not sure what the exact correct term for it is, but it's basically the R1 cross or the RB cross on Xbox. Weak foot cross, weak foot shot, it just doesn't matter. It goes in 95% of the time, and it's basically a free goal whenever you have someone free in the box. Lob pass assistance, I only ever use these when playing it around at the back. I can't imagine, I'll be honest with you, I haven't even tested this one, but I can't see how it could be possible for it to have any other better option. I mean, no, the only other option is manual. There, I don't need to test it. That has to be unassisted. Save assistance, unassisted. I think that might just be for pro clubs. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, you're going to want as much help as possible to save balls with your keeper, aren't you? I'm pretty sure, though, the only option you've got of controlling your keeper or doing anything with your keeper is you moving the right stick, so have that unassisted. Analog sprint. Now, this is another funny one for my life since I made it a feature. A good, don't know how many years ago, I always had it on because I felt like in the defending situations I'd maybe run a little bit too fast. But this year, I mean, well, earlier in this year, I guess, it used to be all about pace and counter-attacks and all to keep slowing the game down with these patches. But I have this off still. I still want to be running at maximum speed all of the time. Maybe now they've slowed the game down, I might go back to testing this with on, but for now I've had it off. I think it's a safer option, isn't it? When you're attacking, especially, to always have your player running at his maximum speed. Defending, tactical defending, pretty obvious. It's the only option you're only allowed to use legacy in friendlies, not even on foot, on head-to-head friendlies. Basically, that's just a completely irrelevant option. Pass receiver lock late. This is a bit of a funny one. At the start of last year when they introduced this feature, I was reading people saying that it's better to have it on early. Absolute nonsense. Especially if you're playing against someone decent and they go to, say you pressed a pass and you realise they're going to cut it out. At the last second you could change the direction of your pass and play it to someone else, and it would let you choose a different direction. The pass would go to where you aim late, whereas if you add on early and they read the pass, that's it, your pass is getting intercepted. My button configuration, I'm an old school player, classic for both attack and defence. I remember a few years ago, before they kind of killed the second man press, people used to have this. They used to have teammate containers X and used to run around the pitch holding X, but EA have kind of killed that off now, so I would never recommend that. I would only recommend to have it on classic for both. Finally, camera settings. Now, this is the thing that most people seem to be interested in, especially when I'm streaming my weekend league. I use co-op and I use it with obviously custom settings. I have 10 height and 0 zoom. My thoughts are, I just want to see as much of the pitch as possible. That's why my zoom 0. I want to see as far out. And I've messed around with the height. I just feel that if you move it down, you start getting too low. If you start moving it up, you just feel like you're watching it literally from a bird's eye view. So I think it's perfect. I think co-op 10.0 is the one. I mean, it's different preferences, isn't it? You look at a lot of the other pros. Some are still using tele broadcast, some using default, some using, I don't know what they're using, some kind of weird default settings, custom settings I should say, sorry. But yeah, of course, a co-op 10.0 I believe is the most well-rounded and perfect camera settings you can use on the game. And to go hand in hand with this, just one extra little thing before we end the video. This is important this year in my opinion. Now, a lot of players just have that on the player name bar, or they have the indicator and they have the, they have the player indicator and they have the player name. If you have it on player name and indicator, you want to change this to player name, and this is for especially right with the camera co-op 10.0, because it's so far out. You can occasionally get the players mixed up. I remember last year I always, especially from corners when I was trying to play it into the box, I used to get Militao and Firmino mixed up because they look quite similar from the far out camera. They used to have the same pink boots, they used to be the same kind of skin colour, and this year I've got a similar problem with Werner and Kevin De Bruyne. I know I don't have them anymore, but when I did at the start, they're both kind of the same height, same build, and I would try things with I would try passes with Werner that I would never have tried with De Bruyne. So once I change this to player name, as soon as you receive possession, the game will show you the name of the player above his head, so you know which player you've got straight away, and there can be no confusion, and you won't try something that you wouldn't have tried with the player that you thought it was. So I think that just about covers everything. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comment section down below. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Get those notifications turned on, and I will be seeing you tomorrow afternoon for some top 100 weekend league rewards.